Greetings. I'm in the museum today in the city of Eilat in Israel, and behind me is the actual real ink flag, which was the flag that was raised when the Israeli forces took this. Well, I mean, it wasn't a city then, it was an outpost in the desert back in 1949. And the reason why I'm here in front of this flag is because it's all about a story I wrote a couple of years ago called Hatikvah. Hatikvah is the Hebrew for hope, and it is also the name of the Israeli national anthem. And the reason why I'm talking about it here is because one of the inspirations behind it and one of the settings in it was the outpost of Ras Uthman, which is where the flag was raised. And if we go through here in the museum, what we will see is the actual jeep that was used by the soldiers. And one of the main characters in there, Hatikvah, was actually one of the soldiers who came to raise the flag. So there's the jeep. So, I am now at the spot where the ink flag was raised. The building behind me there was an Ottoman era outpost. It was basically the only building in Eilat at the time. It wasn't really a place, it was just the spot where the land meets the sea. And I chanced upon this spot years ago when I was first in Israel on the kibbutz. I came down to Eilat for a weekend and was wandering around and found this, and for some reason the story stuck in my mind. Back then this sculpture wasn't there of the raising of the flag, but the explanation board was. And it stuck in my mind, and then years later I was reading Israeli History by Gilbert, and it talked about Operation Ovda, or I've seen it written of Dud as well, where basically two companies of the Israeli Armed Forces, the IDF, raced down at the end of the War of Independence to get to the sea, to see who could get to the sea first. And the ones raising the flag are obviously the ones who captured Eilat. But as it says in the story, there wasn't really a lot of capturing involved because there was nobody to capture it off. And I don't know why, but something about that kind of racing through the desert to some final goal at the end of what was a war which many people expect him to lose at the beginning, really stuck with me. And it struck me as perhaps one of the most hopeful and almost like kind of noble parts of Israeli history. And this is what Hatikvah is about. So Hatikvah is about Hatikvah, who he's a young soldier, and he's in love with Yael, who's she's a girl who's in the jeep with him. You know, they're part of the army. It's this new age of equality. It's this new age of hope. Like they're building this beautiful new world, this new country. And what they're doing just symbolizes it so much. You know, they're establishing a city that will last for generations. But as with all dreams, I won't say they turn sour, but the normality, the everyday gets in the way. And in the story, he lives in Eilat. He lives in the city he founded, but he's visited by the grandson of the Hungarian gentleman who actually rescued him from the Holocaust. And he's kind of reflecting on his life, but also on the life of Israel. And of course the two mirror one another, because he married Yael, they were happy together, but then she left and she went to America. And he doesn't know, he has little to do with her these days. And the Israel that he dreamed of creating hasn't quite worked out like that. You know, he's not really in favour of the whole thing with the settlers. and some of the stuff that's done with the Palestinians, and it's not quite what he envisaged, but it's not all bad. And then at the end, the story ends with the words of the Israeli national anthem, Hatikvah, the hope, because the hope always remains. Hope is always there, even when normality squashes the rest. I don't know whether it works as a story. I mean, I've had mixed feedback on it, but I quite like it. And I do quite like it as a way of also, getting something from the experience that I had all those years ago. It's 23 years ago this month. But looking at it not as a fresh-faced youngster, as of course Weissman was at the time, but as someone who's matured a bit. So here we are, this is Hatikvah, and this is Israel.